Welcome to Bet On It. I'm Kelly Stewart, your host tonight. We are going to break down that wonderful NFL wildcard round with my guys over here, Mr. Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas, and Gianni, the Greek Gambler, at Greek_Gambler on Twitter. Let's get this week's show started. We're going to look at the playoff teams and if there's any value in betting these teams in the futures market.
Well, first off, Kelly, I hate to break the news to you, but I have to tell you, you get no more time off. You understand that. Okay, the Twitter world was just up in arms last week that I was sitting in your seat last week, okay? So
you
can't have it anymore.
I really tried everything in my power, but Christmas kind of prevailed.
I finally got to know what the Prez feels like.
Oh, poor Prez.
I tell you, don't read that.
Bashing the host.
Don't ever read a comment.
No, I actually felt sorry for Prez now.
That is probably a good thing. I do miss doing the show with Prez because the comments would be so outrageous and hilarious.
Yeah.
We actually laughed about that over Christmas because last year I filmed Prez and I show at my buddy's house and people. He has like this older lake house, and they're like, "What are you like? I know Osama bin Laden's bunker. Where are you filming right now?" And that was by far the best comment I've ever received on a video. So I apologize, you guys. Don't worry. I am going to be gone in a couple weeks, but we won't miss anything because it's going to be the Pro Bowl.
It's Pro Bowl. Yeah, we won't have a bet on it the show the weekend between the Super Bowl, but we will have a big Super Bowl edition. So we'll go right through the playoffs. We'll take the week off in between the Super Bowl. And then we'll have the big Super Bowl edition. We'll be rolling out props and everything else. And Kelly, by the way,
those prop sheets are just overwhelming. So I'm going to get started on them early. As soon as I know that the Westgate or whoever else we're going to use is going to have theirs done.
In the past, Westgate, your buddy John Murray and everybody at Westgate, they are always the ones that came out first. And they have... And it's fun. I mean, if you've never been in Vegas for it,
it's literally like my clipboard of papers.
Oh, yeah. There's
35 sheets, 40 sheets.
Like 300 to 400 props that they come out with. But the thing of it is they bring them out one at a time. You know, they bring the board out, and they don't have the printout right away because they don't want everybody around town copying them. If you want to do it, that first night, you got to do it at the board. You get in line. The props are up on the board. You got to watch the board scroll, get the one you want. Go to the window, and they let you bet, I think, 2 or 3 at a time.
You know what's going to happen?
And then you go back to the end.
I'm not going to do it because it's not going to be on the app. They need to get with the times. I'm going to tell John that.
I think they put it on the app after the first night.
Okay.
They just don't want it easy for everybody to copy.
Because you spend 40 hours, 60 hours, whatever it is, putting this thing together, then
Yeah,
everybody else around town just says
copy and paste. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, Kelly, I have not lost a football play since the last decade. How do I do it?
You guys, Marco sent this really funny video yesterday, and Johnny said not to tweet it. Johnny didn't understand the significance. I'm sorry, you're late to the party because when Scott Van Pelt did it the other night, I was just sitting on my couch, like falling asleep after the game, and I was rolling by myself. The dog's looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" It was one of his best segments. Okay, so let's check out the odds to win the Super Bowl. These are the current odds here at the Westgate in Las Vegas. So the AFC odds, obviously, the Baltimore Ravens up top, Kansas City hanging out in second. New England, they still have to protect themselves a little bit, so they're just keeping them at 16-1. And then a couple of the long shots, Houston, Buffalo, and Tennessee. We'll flip to the NFC, where we have San Francisco up top, New Orleans just right behind. Packers at 10-1 is interesting, and I will say that I got some insight from John Murray. They took, I believe, a $30,000 bet on the Packers, which is why it moved them to 10-1, why they're a little bit off market. And a couple of the long shots there, Philadelphia, Seattle, and Minnesota. Marco, I'll start with you. Tell me who you like here.
Well, I know you talked to John Murray, and he gave you the top 3 liabilities at Westgate as far as the futures go. And I talked to our friend Dave Sharapan over at CG. And the top team at both, liability-wise, right now, is the Seattle Seahawks.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously a lot of this came in before all of their injuries and everything else, but still, it's weird to see a team in the wild card position be the biggest liability for the books as far as the Super Bowl futures go. Westgate, New England, number 2. At CG, Baltimore's number 2. And a lot of that I think was during the season where people were jumping on Baltimore as they started to see this, freight train of an offense go. And then, as you said, Green Bay moved up there with that big bet for them. New England number 3 at CG. We always talk about, Ace, when we look at the futures, that a lot of times if you are going to look to a dog, that a mechanical parlay in the long run ends up coming out better. But there are some big prices, and I know one of the teams that a lot of people are talking about, and it's going to be when we break down that game, we're going to talk about it in detail. Tennessee versus New England. Is this the demise of the New England Patriots, or is this the obituary we're writing for Tom Brady and company?
I don't know if it's their obituary, but it looks scary. I mean, this is the first time since 2009 they're even playing in the wild card.
Good. And Tennessee, I think we'll talk about it, but I think this is the toughest game for them. If they get by this one, I don't think you want to face this team. This offense, since Tannehill's taken over, it's not the same offense that you saw the first 6 weeks of the season with Mariota. You get that running game going, and Tannehill has confidence. This is a team that Houston might regret laying down last week and letting them roll into the playoffs, and they're sitting out there at 80-1. I was shocked to see that, but it's because they got to go through New England first. What do you see, Base?
Personally, I'm not surprised. I mean, listen, you get to that part of the season, you're not going to get much value on the futures market.
Well, full disclosure, you also already have a futures bet on the Saints.
Yeah, back in August, I bet the Saints 12-1 and 13-1. So I have a lot of equity to play with on the Saints. I don't think there's much value on them now at all. I wouldn't bet them because we know dome teams in the playoffs just do not do well outdoors. And now the Saints are not going to have that home field advantage I was hoping for.
Go through Green Bay is interesting.
Truth. And also you got to remember, there's some attractive prices there, but this is that time of year where experience matters more than anything else. And that's why you're getting those 80-1s and 40-1s on teams that haven't won a playoff game, quarterbacks that haven't played or won a playoff game. Those things tend to matter when you get to the postseason, and I think that's why you see, until New England's out of it, you can't, just avoid, not look at that team. As bad as they've looked the last few weeks.
So do you think there's value at 60-1?
Of course, there always is. On a team like New England, until they're out of it, you have to. I mean, especially at 6-1.
Well, they're 16-1 currently. They started off
to win the AFC right now. What are they?
Or to win the Super Bowl.
To win the Super Bowl, I'm sorry.
16-1.
Yes, to win the Super Bowl is 16-1. To win the AFC, they're probably, like you said, closer to 6-1.
I think there's value on New England. I really do. I think New England or Kansas City. I mean,
even at 4-1, you think Kansas City?
I think that's where I would look because it's the road. What road do they have to take to get there? I mean, how many games do they have to win, and who are they going to play? I look at it. What is the potential point spreads on their next opponents?
Kansas City's going to be a favorite on all four.
A significant favorite.
Baltimore's going to be a favorite. San Francisco.
Favorite. So
New Orleans will be a favorite in Green Bay.
Exactly. And let's not forget, this is the playoff round. Most important is pick the winner. Pick the winner of the game. I'll talk about that when we touch on the games, but especially in the wild card round. Don't even look at the point spread.
I know we're running out of time. I'll just say I think there's more value in the NFC than the AFC. I think the NFC is more wide open than the AFC.
Why is that?
Just because the two teams at the top, the Saints and San Francisco. San Francisco's defense has given up way too many points over the last month. I know they've had injuries, but can they get healthy and be able to overcome that?
It's interesting. I kind of like a long shot there in the NFC. I don't think it's going to get there, but we're going to step out for a quick break. When we return, we're going to look at the 2 Saturday playoff games. That's up next on Bet On It. That's right. We have the Bills starting off at the Texans.
Get $25 in WagerBucks added to your account after your first purchase at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk and SportsMemo family.
Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. All right, guys, it's time to dive into Saturday's playoff games. This first one, I'm going to go to VR because we had an interesting talk in the green room. I already bet this one, but now I'm kind of regretting not waiting to talk to you first. Buffalo. Looks like 2.5 pretty much everywhere across the board. I don't think there's any 3s left. There is a 3 left at Caesars and 1 at Stations. But total 44 VR, tell the people what you told me in the green room was the plan here.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that immediately the first buy order came in on Buffalo +3. Granted, it's a key number, so the betting syndicate that bet it obviously concluded the line was not going to go higher, meaning the Houston money was not going to come in. And it makes sense because when you look at Houston, although they're capable of pretty much beating anyone on any given Sunday, it sounds cliche. I mean, this is a team with negative point differential going into the playoffs. Granted, it's a home game for them, but they have not played very good football this entire season. Let's not forget, just 2 weeks ago, they held on for dear life in a must-win game against Tampa Bay, and they needed 5 turnovers just to get that win. So, again, I was a little surprised to see such a wave of money come in and get that 3. I mean, it was a couple of different groups battling to get 3 on Buffalo. And then once it went to 2.5, you saw the wise guys take a step back. And I think the public's going to bet this way. You're going to get good two-way action. But what you'll see is come Saturday, the sharp group's going to come in and they're going to bet Houston on the money line. So the goal was to get +3 on Buffalo, looks like the value side, or to get Houston on the money line to win the game at home.
Currently, there is a -140 here in Vegas, and there's one as well outside of Vegas.
Bet. It's not a bad bet. Personally, I hope they do middle it. I'll make some money. But I bet the over myself. I thought there was some value on the over. The market agreed with me. I didn't have time to pass it on to subscribers.
Because it went from 41 to 43.5 very quickly.
And when it does that, I won't pass it on. I don't want my guys to take the worst of it. Even if I think it's still a winning bet, there's better spots for you to get your money in. Just let it go. If you lose the number, let it go. There's other better spots to get your money in. And real quickly, this is the round where the point spread doesn't matter the most. In the playoffs, you go back now, I'm talking over a decade, 15 plus years, 83% of the time in the playoffs, the winner of the game covers the spread. That's all rounds. That's the Super Bowl, just playoffs overall. In the wild card round, 88% of the time, close to 9 out of 10 times, the spread is irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. Pick the winner of the game, and you're going to cover the spread 9 out of 10 times. So keep that in mind, especially in this round. It's this round and the conference championships where the spread matters the least. And, again, divisional round, Super Bowl, it's around 79, 78%, still high, but 9 out of 10 times, you got to kind of put the spread aside. And that's what, again, getting pick'em and +3, I really don't see the sense in that, but it's different groups just disagreeing on where the value is.
Well, one of the things with Buffalo, they're 10-6, Kelly.
Well,
5 of their 6 losses have been by 7 points or less.
And also, they've been a covering machine on the road this year.
And again, we talk about they have the formula that you want in playoff time. You want a team that plays great defense. These are opposite ends of the spectrum, these two teams, as far as defenses go. You've got Buffalo, they're the number 5 defense in the league. Houston's next to last. They're going to get J.J. Watt back for the playoffs, but he's missed how many months? How effective is he going to be stepping right back in? And that the injury that he suffered is one of those ones where you're not going to have that full arm strength back from the tear and stuff. I look at this one, I like the Buffalo side here. You look at them going in, this is a team that just doesn't give up points. And Houston, last week, and I know you talked to John Murray and everybody else, there wasn't a bookmaker in town that was happy last Sunday. Okay, final week of the season, they made the lines as high as they could make them on the teams that had must-win situations, and Houston didn't help them at all. They sat all their players.
Brian kind of lied about it too, which didn't help, at least early on in the week, which is why, if you notice in all the contests, it was 3.5.
Right.
And Buffalo did the same thing with the Jets. Yeah. I mean, they pulled their quarterback.
They let Allen play a series, and then they pulled him, but the Houston game, that line closed.
And there's the Saints that Drew Brees is in there scoring 35 points.
I don't understand what they're doing. It's amazing because I actually threw money on the under in that game because I thought you're going to pull people out of that game. Why are you going to risk injury? But this line got to 10 last week with Houston because they sat it right, and it still wasn't enough to stop the onslaught of Tennessee money to come in. And I'll tell you what, they could regret letting this Tennessee team slip in. We'll talk more about them down the road whenever we get to the New England game. But looking at Buffalo, this is a team that holds their opponents to 17 points or less more often than not. If you do that in a playoff game, you're going to be in the game all the way down to the wire. I don't know that Houston's defense is going to be good enough. Deshaun Watson, he's got that running capability, but let's face it, Josh Allen will tuck the ball and run just as much. Now, he's not as dynamic of a runner as it, but the runs he makes are crucial runs. There's those third down runs where you're dropping back in coverage and he sees you go into man coverage where the defenders are turning their back and he sees a little bit of daylight. He'll run in their first down runs, keeping drives alive. I like Buffalo here. Formula, what's the saying in the playoffs? Defense wins championships. I got to look at Buffalo, and when we get to another segment, I think it's going to be something I'll be using in one of our favorite segments when we talk teasers.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. This is a total teaser play. Okay, you alluded to it. We're going to talk about Tennessee at New England. This one's now up to 5.5 here in some spots. I'm shocked to see New England money. Total 44.5, up from 42.5. This is interesting. I mentioned the Patriots haven't been in the first round of the playoffs since 2009. Their offensive line is banged up. Brady has no weapons.
Yeah.
They've covered 3 games since the first week of November. I can't trust this team laying points, and yet there's an onslaught of money, per usual, coming in on the Patriots.
Why? Because you're going to hear the following stats. Belichick, 21-7 against the spread off a home loss. Belichick, 20-9 against the spread off a loss to a division rival. Belichick, 6-0 against the spread off a loss as a double-digit favorite. Belichick since he's been at New England, when he's a home favorite of 7 points or less, 52-27 against the spread. Those are mind-boggling stats, and until you actually slay the dragon, they're still there, okay? This is the toughest game for Tennessee to get by. I think Tennessee is a dangerous team. I love this offense. They went toe-to-toe with New Orleans 2 weeks ago without Derrick Henry. And, they got a late score in that game that made it bigger than the final margin was. But they had the ball and only down 3 in that game against New Orleans. And then they had that no call where they decapitated the receiver and he fumbled the football. I think this Tennessee team's dangerous, but history, I can't buck it. I'm still, until they knock the Patriots off, I can't do it. I lean to New England.
All right, VR. What are your thoughts?
I bet New England. Listen, and real quickly, I tell you if I bet it, and other times I just tell you it's an opinion, or we're forced to give a pick on a Monday night, a Sunday night, and the primetime games. And the reason I bring that up is last week someone was DMing oh, I checked your results and you won on Sunday, but you lost on the show. Well, we do the show days in advance. I could only give you what I have up until that day. But here's what I could tell you. I bet the New England Patriots. That was a buy order that came in at -4.5. I agreed with it. I sent it out to my subscribers immediately. Real quickly, we don't have much time. 15 of the last 16 AFC championships have been won by Brady, Roethlisberger, or Manning. We don't have Roethlisberger, we don't have Manning, but there's still Tom Brady there. And until he's gone, he's still the favorite to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
Do you have any opinion on the total? It went up from 42.5 to 44.5. That's actually where I'm looking at this game. 9 of the last 10.
You like the under?
I like the over.
Good.
I think that if Tennessee is going to stay in this game, they're going to have to match scores with New England and vice versa. I think that Derrick Henry is going to be able to run all over the Patriots, and the Patriots are going to have to find an answer, kind of similar to that Kansas City game where they fell behind, and next thing you know, there comes Brady back in full force, chucking it downfield.
Tennessee, 28 or more points in 6 of their last 7 games.
Yeah, I like a lot of offense here. Time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to look at those Sunday NFL playoff games. These ones are more interesting. We have Minnesota starting off with the Saints.
Looking for more NFL betting info? Then tune into the Presidential Address each week when Wager Talk's own Lawrence Presman, the Prez, along with Ralph Michaels, break down this week's entire NFL card. The show is available every week exclusively at Wager Talk TV. Be sure to check out Teddy Covers and Ralph Michaels on their new show, Wager Talk, each and every weekday on the Sports Grid TV network, live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. This is your daily Sports Central for gamblers, a full hour of loaded sports betting content. Check it out for free every weekday.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Let's head over to the Sunday action. We're going to break down a couple of these games. We have Minnesota at New Orleans. Lots 7.5s across the board here in Vegas. Total 49.5 pretty much. VR, this is an interesting one here because I thought immediately when I saw it open 7 that it was going to be immediately 9. Why? Because the books want to protect themselves from teasers.
And the Saints sharp money is going to keep coming in, and then the public money is going to come in, and they got to go to 9.5 or 10, right?
But they didn't. It went to 8, and now it's back down to 7.5. Do you want to tell the people why?
Because at 8, wise guys got involved on the Minnesota Vikings. We bet Minnesota +8.
Time out real quick. So we're sitting in the green room, and I go, I kind of like Minnesota. He goes, if you like Minnesota, you better bet it right now. And I go, what? And he goes, we're betting it right now. I'm like, like frantically trying to get in my
like,
+8.
I got an 8. I got an 8.
Because I liked it as well, but I was just like, let's just hang tight. Let's just hang tight. Because I did think it was going to get to 9. But if you guys wonder why all the 8s are gone, it's because our man over here.
They are gone. And the truth is, I would be betting Minnesota even if I didn't have that future. I would. I think there's just a lot of value getting over a touchdown. I know how dominant the Saints are, but these are the playoffs. You know, you don't get style points. You're looking to win and move on. I mean, the goal isn't to cover the spread. Again, we're in that round where you got to pick the winner. I think Minnesota has a chance of spoiling the Saints' season, man.
Really?
All the talk is, here's the reason. All the talk is the Saints, the last 2 years, they got screwed. There's the miracle in Minnesota 2 years ago. Then last year,
that's what everything I keep hearing is revenge.
Revenge.
Kirk Cousins
over.
time.
That's where you got to be cautious when you keep hearing that.
Okay.
It's like we've already dismissed the Minnesota side as even having a chance. This team, if you look at the point differential between them and New Orleans, you would think New Orleans had their best season. They crushed everyone. It's only about 6 or 7 points
on
difference.
paper, they're literally I literally have it in my notes. They're surprisingly comparable.
Exactly.
On
very
paper.
very close to their analytics. That's where people make the mistake of thinking that the Saints are just that much better. And again, I really have a lot invested in the Saints to do well in these playoffs and win the Super Bowl. I want to see that more than anybody. But I'd be lying to you if I thought they were a good bet this week. Again, this is a team that scored 30-plus points 4 straight weeks. Everything's looking good. You covered 3 straight games. Here comes Minnesota. You got all this revenge. Be careful, man.
Marco, the biggest wild card in this game is going to be Dalvin Cook.
He is. Having the week off last week, they sat a lot of players. That's going to help him. You know, his injury is a shoulder injury, and it's more like I think he could have went if they needed him to go, but they had nothing to play for. Why risk him?
They needed him against the Packers.
They needed him against the Packers, and again, it was just a bad. I just disagree. They laid an egg on that Monday night game.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, and I realize you got players that you don't want to get hurt. Last week, you set them and everything, but now you're going into the playoffs off of that just disappointing Monday night game. I would have wanted to get that bad taste out of my mouth. Play some football. They're not light switches. Turn them on and off. That's my only concern with the Vikings. And I know you love Coach Zimmer. Who doesn't love him? He's been a point spread machine.
But so have the Saints this year. They've made their backers money all season long.
We still got that elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is Kirk Cousins until he wins a big game. He laid a colossal egg on Monday night. He was all the things that everybody said, and I love Twitter when everybody, the obvious, it's there.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Hindsight's 20/20. Where are you chirping before the game? Yeah, he was 0-8 before the game. He's 0-9 after the game. Yeah. How could you even consider Minnesota? Well, because I was playing against Green Bay as much as I was playing Minnesota.
Absolutely.
But this is a spot where now I look at them. I'm concerned about them going in here. I think I agree with you. I think this line is too high. New Orleans looks better than they are because for whatever reason, Sean Payton just kept his foot on the gas all year.
And that's where you got to be cautious. Real quickly, the thing with New Orleans also, man, that you got to be cautious is with both these teams is they're dome teams. And as far as looking at futures, they do not do well in the playoffs. I mean, looking over the last 30-plus games, you got to go back. This goes back to like 2010 of dome teams in the playoffs. We have over 30-plus games. Less than 25% of the time do dome teams playing outdoors actually win in the playoffs. It's a tough thing for them to do.
But the one thing with both of these teams being dome teams is an advantage for Minnesota because it's not as big of an advantage for the Saints. They're used to playing in a dome in the loud noises.
That's true. Okay, let's go to the Sunday afternoon game. Seattle at Philadelphia. Philadelphia opened a 1-point favorite. Now a 1.5-point underdog. There's some twos at a couple spots. I'm going to save my opinion because this is going to be my best bet for the show. So, Mark, I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah. Is there an uglier looking team in the playoffs than the Philadelphia Eagles? Nobody wants them. Last week, we talked about it in the green room. The Giants were a popular play. We liked the Giants. Everybody in the Super Contest had the Giants. Everybody in Circa Millions had the Giants.
That's why I left it alone, man.
Yeah,
I was ready to fire.
I said, come Sunday, I got cold feet on that when everybody's riding that, popular.
Well, I was locked and loaded early on.
Yeah.
So.
Once you're in, you're in.
But you look at Seattle. They played a great game last week against San Francisco. They came within 2 inches of hosting a game. Nobody likes coming up 2 inches short. It's just it's not a good thing. And it's how do they bounce back? Now they got to go on the road. I don't want to make jokes about it, but they were that close to having a first round bye. And now you're on the road. You played Sunday night, and now you got to travel cross country. You already beat this team earlier in the season, and Philadelphia was banged up then. Now Philly's the healthier of the two teams. I like the revenge angle here. I know it's an overused word, but you're playing same season revenge in the playoffs here now. I like Philly.
All right, VR.
I'll make it even simpler for you. The wrong team's favored. I mean, there's no way Philadelphia should be a dog at home to the Seattle Seahawks. There's nothing power rating wise that reflects that. There's just no way. Seattle is now a 2.5 point favorite. What does that mean? If they were playing in Seattle, they'd be close to double digits against Philadelphia? That makes absolutely zero sense. And that's just the market.
Well, we saw this exact same thing happen when they played during the regular season. Philadelphia opened as the favorite. The line got pushed the other way.
Exactly.
And Seattle ended up winning that game.
Getting it done, 17-9.
To win that game 17-9.
Exactly. I like Philadelphia in this spot. Again, I think you're getting a ton of line value. And I love the situation that you touched on. To me, it's just a perfect mix. I like Philadelphia.
Well, that basically gives away my best bet, so nobody has to watch anymore. But in all seriousness, we all know I love the ugly dogs. But
all right.
Home underdogs just in the playoffs last however many years, I got to find that out, 16, 7-1 home underdogs against the spread.
You're not a home underdog in the playoffs. You're a playoff team. You're not supposed to be
It just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's happening, we have some edge.
Disrespect.
We'll get with Mr. Ralph Michaels right now and hear what he has to say. That was great stuff from both these guys. So let's see what Ralph has to say for some TNA. Time to bring in our resident stat man, Mr. Ralph Michaels, looking extra dapper today. Did you get dressed up just for me?
Well, I never leave the house. So last week it's 40 and it's like snowing and I come with a shirt, and today it's warm as crap and I have a sweater on. So I guess good. I just don't know.
PJ Fleck would be very proud.
Yeah, thanks.
I think it's great. Okay, wild card weekend. Last week was tough with week 17. Wild card weekend, I feel like I have it all figured out, which is probably not a good thing. Tell me what you've got.
At least you're not handicapping motivation. And, I do want you guys to check out, go to wagertalk.com, go to my homepage. I did a stat compare sheet with all the records, all the stats, and all the rankings are only versus teams that were 500 or better when you faced them. Like Buffalo only faced 6, Houston faced 9. An interesting thing I found, when the Tennessee Titans are playing a team 500 or better, they only score 8.6 points per game in the first half, 18.8 points per game in the second half. So it breaks down quarter by quarter scoring, just something to check out. But let's get to the TNA information. 2 teams, same record.
Okay.
The away dog, only 4-12 straight up, but 11-4 against the spread, and that would be Buffalo-Houston, where the same team, the same record the away dog has won. Teams that have had a positive turnover margin in back-to-back games, and they're a non-division team. So you haven't played this foe. You are plus turnovers each of your last 2 games, like Philadelphia. Those teams since 2006 have gone 30-10, 75% against the spread, 40-game margin. Why? You're playing consistent. You're not turning the ball over. You're not making mistakes. Your defense is getting turnovers. Only one team applies, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Just a note, the Seattle Seahawks are the first team since 2001. The NFL playoff database only goes back to 2001, where I have access to. They're the first team to ever lose back-to-back games and then be an away favorite.
Yeah, I saw that this morning on Twitter.
They're only the third team since 2001 to lose their last game and be an away favorite.
So what does that mean?
Well, it just means it doesn't happen. It shows you how little Philadelphia is respected for the team to lose that game and come in. So you have a disrespected home dog in Philadelphia that's won 4 in a row. You know, one thing I want to point out is a lot of things I read. Wild card road teams have gone 7-0-1 the last 2 years. But I also want to point out that the home team's 15-14-3. So I think that's more a 2-year anomaly. I don't want people to fall into that trap thinking that's what happens. Question for you. We always say it's sometimes hard to beat a team twice depending on sports.
Right.
So now we're talking playoffs. You're a non-division team, so you only play this team once every 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And you lost in the regular season.
So the Eagles to the Seahawks.
And good or bad?
It's good.
It is good. 58, 38, and 5, 59.1%, all the way back to 2001. So in the history of the database,
that's great.
If you lose to that team the first time, you have covered 59.1% of the time. And one weird one, Kelly, real quick. Teams off a big win, 10-point win is a favorite. They have a positive turnover margin on the season, and they score offensively 40% of their drives.
Okay.
A lot to look up. But in the last 8 years, there's been 16 teams. It's gone 16-0 to the over. That's New Orleans and Minnesota. New Orleans is a team off a big win. I like the under too. But I'm just saying, I just have to share the info because it's there.
But yeah, that makes me a little apprehensive about that over. Or about that under? Okay. Well, always great stuff from Ralph. It's now time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, it's time for our NFL teasers, and that's right, our best bets of the week.
Get 7 days of all access from your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo capper for just $79. That's a $40 savings off the regular rate to receive every play in all sports from your favorite capper for 7 days, including all 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. Just use coupon code SAVE40 at checkout.
Guys, we are red hot in football, going 20-7 with our last 27 plays. Get 30 days of my all-access service for just $249. That's $100 off to receive every play I release in all sports, including all of my 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. Just use coupon code MD249 at checkout and receive 30 days for just $249. Go to my homepage now at wagertalk.com to sign up.
All right, we checked in with Mr. Ralph Michaels. We've broken down the games every which way. Now it's time for the most perfect teaser week ever. Are you guys going to have the same teaser?
And this is when, real quick, I actually do tease in the playoffs.
Why wouldn't
During the
you?
season, I almost never
Do you
find
remember, was it like
opportunities to
4
tease.
years ago during the first round, if you teased the side and total, which I know you're not supposed to see the total.
You hit
but
everything.
It was
everything.
all 8 hits.
Happens a lot. That's why in the playoffs, you see, especially the conference championship round, books that'll take a $5,000 teaser during the regular season will only take a $500 teaser that Sunday. It's been mathematically proven that the teaser on Championship Sunday should, a 6-point teaser, they should charge you around minus 170, 175. And they can't do that. They can't change the rules. So instead, they lower the limit they're willing to take.
That year that you were talking about, it was the 8 sides. Any side.
Was it 8 sides?
It was
So
the
was
8
divisional
sides.
weekend?
No matter which way you did it, because
felt close. Yeah.
Caesars panicked so bad that year. I'm sorry. I probably won't get any endorsements there, but they're under different management now. Anyways, they banned teasers
We ain't
the following
teasing.
week.
We don't want them. Yeah.
They didn't take teasers the next week, which was
Was it
so,
the divisional weekend then?
It was the first weekend. It was the first week, wild card weekend. They got crushed. It was all 8 sides. It didn't matter if you took the dog or the favorite. They all covered.
That's funny.
But then the next week, they didn't take teasers because they got crushed. And that's the week you were supposed to, because all the lines were 3 and 3.5, which is when you want people teasing, because average Joes will take,
go,
let me take that small dog and
make
them
dog favorite, make it a dog.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing. So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I do remember that, and and it actually made like one of the bigger shows, like an ESPN or something, and they never talked about gambling at the time, and I was like, wow, that's just
And
nuts.
it made even bigger news when Caesars pushed the panic button. Code red! Code red!
That is really funny.
But for me, for my teaser, this is simple. We talked about Buffalo. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
They hold all their opponents, majority of the time, 17 points or less.
Yeah.
I'm teasing them to 8.5. I don't see Houston getting separation with that defense unless, Josh Allen, the stage is too big for him and he throws 2 pick sixes or something. I don't see them losing by double digits. So I'm teasing Buffalo plus the points. And the other one, we talked about Seattle and Philadelphia. The Seattle team is banged up. The points, and I didn't go into detail when we broke the game down, but here's a couple points. Last week, Seattle, they were playing at home for winning the division. That was a huge game. Nobody knew what to expect with the running back situation. They signed Marshawn Lynch and everything else. The rookie Homer comes out of nowhere and has a monster game. Do you think he's going to have a monster game again this week? Do you think Philadelphia might have looked at some game film and saw what they did with Homer last week and he's going to be average? All these guys are going to be running to the window, fantasy players. I'll tell you right now, any props they put up on Homer this week, bet the unders on all of them, okay? Because now they got film and they're going to be ready for him. And the other stat about Seattle that is very misleading, this is just plain, we talk about turnovers. Turnovers are there. Yes, you can teach your players how to tackle with, coming down, trying to strip the ball and everything else. But once the ball hits the ground, a fumble, that is total dumb luck. You got a 50-50 shot of falling on the ball once you create that. They led the league in recovered fumbles this year. 16 recovered fumbles. Somewhere along the line, luck balances out. I like Philadelphia, tease them. Right now, the teaser's plus 7.5 on a 6-point teaser. I think this line creeps to 2. You saw there were a couple rogue 2.5s for a while.
And there still is one here in Vegas at Coast, but I agree with you, Marco, and I was going to get into that when we talked about the Eagles here in a minute, that in a certain situation, does it really matter as long as you're getting them up over 3 and 7?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Okay, so that's fine, but we'll talk about why I'm going to wait to bet that team here in a minute. VR, I'd love to hear who your teaser is for this week.
Yeah, automatically Philadelphia's in there because, number one, I like that side to begin with, and it falls into that plus EV teaser category where we're going through 3 through 7. I'll keep repeating that over and over because that's all that matters if you're betting teasers. And then the second side, I'm going to go ahead, and I know a lot of so-called experts will say you don't tease through 0. I get it. But I'm going to go with the New England Patriots because I just want that team at home.
Do you
just have to
wait
win the
till
game.
They get 6?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather take them now plus 1. Why wait to get them at pick'em? You know what I mean? Get the point if I could. I know you ain't getting value teasing through 0.
Well,
I get that.
They claim that, but then there's been other studies that recently have shown that now it's not as prevalent.
Exactly, and someone had showed over a period of time there was a 7-point teaser where if you did take a 3.5-point favorite and made it a 3.5-point dog, it was actually profitable over a big enough sample size where there was statistical significance for a number of years. But the markets evolve, they're efficient, they catch up, and it no longer works. And that's what a market's supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they did, and it's done. That's why I keep stressing how hard it is to overcome that juice and how big of an edge the books have. Because if they see it's beatable, they just jack that price of the juice up, and you can't beat them when they do that. And I'm going to add the New England Patriots because, again, them at home in the playoffs, until I see them lose, you're going to have to bet them, at least getting them on the money line is what this teaser does. And is Tannehill debuting in the playoffs? Has he played a playoff game before? No. He hasn't, correct?
No.
The last 55 quarterbacks that made their debut in the playoffs, okay? 12 of them played each other, so we'll throw those away. There's 43 left. 43 quarterbacks have made their debuts over the last 15-plus years in the NFL. They've gone 13-30 straight up, 11-31-1 against the spread. That's why when this show started, I stressed how big experience is, because the data reflects that. it's not just me saying it because just pointing it out of the sky because it's an obvious thing. Experience matters, but debuting quarterbacks just do not do well. So let's go New England, getting them down to +1.
So I have to ask, why not the Saints? Why not taking the Saints?
It doesn't make sense. Saints
to 1.5.
That's an advantage teaser. I would tease them every time before I did Minnesota.
But does it really
Even though I
make
like the
sense?
Minnesota side,
Because I already played
that's
the
the only way I
Minnesota
would
side.
tease it. I would tease the Saints.
I did a 2-team round robin, 3 teams of teasers. I teased the Saints, I teased Philly, and I teased Buffalo.
Even though, because I like Minnesota, and we know this round, points don't matter, so I'm obviously saying Minnesota will probably win this game for them to cover.
So you think that Minnesota, they're worth a sprinkle?
History shows if I'm betting them, I have to sprinkle them this round. So that's why I wouldn't tease the Saints, even though the numbers you're getting on the Saints is the advantage side. You're beating 7, you're beating 3. I would tease them before I would take +8 on Minnesota before taking +14 on a teaser, to be honest with you.
Perfect. All right. Well, you guys know what that means. It's best bet time.
Let's do it.
I might as well
Start
go
with
first.
yours. Yeah, give us
I might
your
as well go
reasoning.
first. I've already talked about it the whole friggin' time. This is my notes for this week. It's nuts. I have a lot of stuff and a lot of theories, but you guys hit the nail on the head.
Toss in a national championship winner for
I
the
will. You already know. We already gave that out like weeks ago. The narrative this week is that Philly's banged up still. That this team still has depth, and we've seen them. We've seen them overcome. And I know I bet against this team last week. I gave out the Giants. The narrative is going to be you can't bet against Russell Wilson, right?
Yep.
And that's what I hear every single time I bet against Seattle, even though I'm not betting against Seattle. I'm playing on another team. But Wentz is 0-3 against Seattle, and that's going to be brought up. Russell Wilson, 4-0 against Philadelphia. But the Eagles, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 as playoff underdogs last 2 years. I think this is going to go down to the wire. This is going to be a really close game.
It looks like it, right?
It does. Everything I'm looking at, I'm going, what in the world? Marco mentioned it as well. 5 turnovers the last time these two played, and the exact same scenario happened. But I'm going to wait to bet the Eagles because it is the 4th game. We're going to see money line parlays tied in with things. Books are going to have to expose.
Bets.
Yep, they're going to have to expose their liability towards the end. I think we're going to see a 3 on this Philadelphia side, so I'm going to wait. I do agree with Marco putting him in the teaser, so I've already locked and loaded that 2-team teaser in with Buffalo and Philly. I think this one gets up here, and even at 2.5, then that chance to have it at 3. But I think Philadelphia wins this game.
I can't disagree with you, and for me, Kelly, I'm going to the Minnesota New Orleans game, and this is not going to be a popular play. I'm going under the total is my best bet.
What? I said I lean the Vikings, but I like the under. Let's go, Marco.
This is a spot here. Everybody's looking at what the Saints have done and Sean Payton all year. Running
over by themselves. By themselves, they get the over. They don't even need to play anyone.
What were they doing last week? Putting up 42 points on Carolina last week. Yeah. The team.
So real quick, it opened 47. Now it's 49.5.
I saw a couple 50s out there.
Yeah, it's going to get there.
So just wait, is what you're telling everybody.
Yeah, the average Joe hasn't got to the window yet.
Right.
When the average Joe gets to the window, they're only betting one thing. 80% of the tickets written already are already on the over.
And that's just sharp guys knowing where the line's going to go.
And they can come back on the other side.
They're going to come back. Yeah, they want to get the steam started.
Get out ahead of it, of course.
So the steam chasers
are
take
all
it even
taking
more.
that over 49
Wait till game day, but then it's a race because the sharps are going to
go under 50, 51.
Well, I think it's really important, and we don't share this enough. There are free screens out there. We have one on our Wager Talk page where you can see the odds. It's open on my computer at all points in time. I've constantly got it open. It lights up. You can see when things are starting to move.
The trigger is it's going to happen offshore before it happens in Vegas first.
Exactly.
And then Vegas follows, boom.
Being a Sunday morning game, when you get up Sunday morning, keep an eye on it Saturday night. When you get up Sunday morning, keep an eye on it. If you start to see things light up, it's probably time to get your bet in.
And if you're the Vikings, what's your game plan here? Do you want to get into
Trade
a shootout
with
Kirk Cousins?
Do
you want Kirk Cousins?
No, I want that second-ranked red zone defense to do what they're supposed to do and limit this team to field goals.
And I want Dalvin Cook that you sat out last week getting the ball
Burning
a lot.
That clock.
Yes, under.
There you go. I'm on the same game, but I'm going Minnesota, and I'm already telling you, I released that already to my subscribers. It's a 5% play, so I just saved you $40 if you were going to. If they were going to buy it, I just
Johnny
saved it
Detroit's going to send out an
He's
email.
pretty-
And he's gonna, I'm going to get yelled
If you
at.
could get rich fading me, God bless you, fade me. But if you're making money following me, then save $40 and bet Minnesota plus 8. I already gave them out.
Yeah, Saints 2-10 against the spread in their last 12 as playoff favorites. I know that, as you mentioned, most of the time in this round, the spread doesn't matter. But I think in this game,
that's the only thing that scared me a little bit. But also, that's making me think sprinkles are alive in this one.
We talked about it. They're literally comparable on paper. I
Very
have
much,
that
very
written
much.
down. I do think I give the edge to the Vikings defense here, specifically.
Their defense is better. Saints offense a little better.
Yes.
And home field advantage is what you have to overcome.
Well, this is one building I haven't been to.
I've been there.
And you said it's nuts.
It is. I left there. I swear to God, I left there. It was back when Pittsburgh Steelers on a Sunday night game. This is 10 years ago, 2010.
Halloween, wasn't it, or something?
Halloween 2010, 2011. And I went home and adjusted the home field advantage for the Saints immediately. The fans won that game on false starts alone. They did not allow the Steelers to be able to call plays on the line. They just cut that out of the game. The fans just did not allow that to happen.
And I think it is built into this number. I think this number is juiced up a little bit.
It is.
And we may see it go back up. I know that you said that you bet it as well as other sharp groups. We may see it go back up because the book
they haven't spoke yet. And when it comes to the playoff time, we say in the NFL, public money outweighs sharp money anyway. When it comes to the playoffs, it's a lot more. It's even more public money.
We will give our listeners just a heads up. Next week, we will go into the national championship game on Bet On It in detail for next week, as it goes on the 13th.
Absolutely. Well, we already know who I'm on because I gave it out already. Kind of wish I would have waited. We talked about
little lucky on
we kind of talked about those parlaying versus betting future, and now I kind of wish I would have. But like as you mentioned, it's whatever, Marco. We're going to step out for a quick break, and when we return, it's going to be our final thoughts on this week's NFL action. That's right, the Bet On It recaps coming up next.
I'm Gianni the Greek Corrales. When I came to Wager Talk 2 years ago, I did a video with Kelly in Vegas where I told you strictly, I can't promise you I'll win tonight. Can't even promise you I'll win this week or this month. I'd be lying to you otherwise. But I can promise you I will win for you long term. Here's what I did. 2018, year's over, turned a profit. 2019 just ended 2 days ago, turned a profit, and that's what I'm going to look to do in 2020. So let's kick it off with the NFL playoffs that have been good to us for years. You'll get $39 All Access Saturday, $39 All Access Sunday. Let's start off 2020 with some damage in NFL playoffs.
Hey guys, I'm Lawrence Presman, the Prez, co-founder of Wager Talk. I'm excited that you're all watching Bet On It. Just want to tell you guys about our hockey show, Puck Time. It's honestly the best show that I do all week. We do it with all of the hockey talent over at Wager Talk and Sports Memo, from Alex B. Smith to Dave Koken, Carmine Bianco, Buster Sports, myself, and Andrew McGinnis. Different co-hosts every day. It's hockey all the time, and it's one of the best sports to bet on, and certainly the most exciting sport to watch. Check us out 2 p.m. Eastern every day, Monday to Friday, at Wager Talk TV.
I know we mentioned we're going to talk about the national championship next weekend. Currently, Clemson is pretty much 5 and 5.5 point underdogs around town here in Vegas. Total is at 70. We're going to take a deep dive in this game next week because, well, I've got a big opinion on the national championship. Go figure. All right, let's recap this week's picks. Yeah, I know VR and I are on the same side. I like it. We were talking about it earlier. You guys already know. You don't even need us to do the show. You already know what we're playing. All right, Buffalo at Houston. Buffalo 2.5 point underdog currently, and that's where Marco D'Angelo is leaning. VR likes the over. I don't have a big opinion on that total, and I keep going back and forth on the side. As VR mentioned, he had a group play Buffalo +3 and playing the Texans on the money line. So if you like that side, -140 is probably the best place to shop around. Tennessee at New England. This one's now been bet up literally since we started doing the show. We're seeing 5.5s. And why? That's because our boy VR and his group gave out 4.5. So here at 5.5, it's still play. 5 still a relatively dead number, and both Marco and Gianni like that side. Next up, we got Minnesota at New Orleans. Marco's looking towards the under here, and I can't disagree. That is what I have circled on this one as well. This one, again, guys, hang tight. By Saturday night, early Sunday morning, this one's going to get bet up. So hang on if you like that under. And VR likes Minnesota +8, which I also played. We got way too many plays this weekend. And happy to see everyone agrees on Philadelphia here. Seattle now a 1.5-point favorite at the Eagles. Marco, VR, and myself, which is nice, alluding to Philly as my best bet. But I also agree, I think we should hang out with the Eagles. I do think it is going to get bet back up. I think we're going to see a ton of Seattle public money coming on this game. So
I think you'll see New Orleans money too. If you miss the 8, I think it'll go back up.
Okay. And I do think at some point in time, they may be protecting themselves as far as a teaser
they're
play
be
there.
Forced. That's what I think they'll have to do.
We'll see how it ends up playing out, but we know that right now the two most bet sides are Seattle and the Saints. And then we got Marco's best bet. We got the under. Gosh,
it's never fun betting.
No, it's
under
not.
on the Saints game. You're holding your breath. Holding the whole game.
I love it. Marco's best bet is the under.
Even 0-0 at halftime, you're still holding your breath.
In the Saints Minnesota game, and I agree with him here. This is going to be a fun one. Let's have a profitable week, guys. As always, we love doing this show. So from Marco, Gianni, Ralph, and myself, good luck this weekend. We all need a little bit of luck after me betting the Giants last weekend. And until next week, guys, let's bet on it.